Whether hybrid or full-time working from home, we know that working remotely is here to stay. But is it still working? Let's evaluate. Let's talk. Now, there are a couple of ways of measuring to see if this working from home, working remotely is still working for companies, and they are particularly interested in it, and as well as middle line leaders, and they look to the first line leader to see if this is still working because we have direct contact with the teams that's working from home or working remotely. The most prevalent measurement of if working from home is still working for the company is productivity. Has productivity gone up or down? And there are various things that we can look at for productivity, but let's be fair to the employees and the associates that's working with this productivity. Things may have changed over the year between 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Processes may have changed, and there are a few things that we need to look at. And I do have a list. All right. The first thing we need to look at is changes in the work assignment. Have the work assignment changed for the team or members of the team? Changes in the processing of the work. As companies evolve, as systems evolve, the processes of the work will probably change, and that may affect the productivity. Additional duties that's given to the team as people retire or move on to a different position. There may be some shifting and different people doing different things at different times. Also, there could be a different workflow. The workflow may change because as new systems come in, if things are improved, this workflow that we had maybe a year ago may have changed. And shifting team members, that may have changed. So all these things are things to look at because when change occurs, we do need to realize we need to give the team time to make adjustments. And there may be times where the productivity has gone down because of that, and not necessarily just because they're working from home. So let's keep those in mind when looking at productivity. Another area that we want to make sure we look at is focus. There is a difference between working in the office and working from home. And if you have not by now, since we've been doing it for a few years, solved the mystery of working from home, it's all about focus. So that's something that we do need to keep in mind when it comes to the employees and if their productivity goes up or down. Focus is something that you can't measure as readily as productivity, but it may be a cue if productivity goes down that there may be something else and it may be focus. A couple of things we want to keep in mind for focus is their workspace. They should by now have a dedicated workspace that they can go to and do the work. They have their computer set up and everything that they need, that they're not moving around the house. Working from home is not working from the couch anymore. If your permanent assignment is working from home, or if we've been doing it for a few years, you should have a dedicated workspace. It just makes it very easier for you to go to that space. You know what time you start work, you know what time work ends, and having that dedicated space will help with just the whole process. Distractions. There have been distractions that may have happened over the past few years. It may be family members moving in and out of the house. It may be children coming back from college. It may be families having new babies. It may be pets that need more attention. All of these could be lead to distractions from you doing your work during your work time. Now, granted, during your work time, there's going to be a lunch period and then there's going to be some breaks in there. And so if some of these people or some of these things need attention, that would be the perfect time to do it, because had you been at work, you would not be able to just break off and go attend to, a daughter or a child or a baby or a dog at any time in the work area. So make sure we keep those in mind. Also, new habits. As the years go by, we develop new habits. We get into a routine of rolling out of bed and starting your workday, but as it continues to move on, you may develop some habits, such as if I want to work out in the morning, maybe I can get up a little earlier, or maybe I can change my schedule to start work a little later And so there may be some changing habits. As long as the habits are not negatively affecting a person's production, the habit should be welcome. If it's something that they're trying to better themselves, or if they want to change their time, if as long as it's not affecting them in a negative way, these are things that we should have. If your company gives you flexibility to work with your team on these kind of habits and these kind of changes. Also, make sure we're measuring and they are keeping up with their break time. If it is a 15-minute break, make sure the breaks are only 15 minutes. If the lunch period that they choose is 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever they want, if they choose it, make sure you hold them to that, because that can be also affect your productivity. And another thing is overtime. If some of the companies are offering overtime because of, not enough people in the office, or if the work level is high and they're offering overtime, we don't want the employees to burn out. So that's another thing that we'll need to talk to them and watch for burnout if overtime is offered. So these are some things that could hinder the focus and also affect the productivity since you're working from home. The last area we want to take a look at is the most critical one, and that is your folks, your team members. We need to pay attention to the team members. Working from home has changed a lot of lives and has affected people mentally, physically, emotionally, and we need to be in attune to our folks, as this may have affected them in some kind of way. You're working from home, so you're with your family more often. And maybe the family was getting along a lot better when they didn't see each other as much. Well, the situation has changed, and this is real life. Working from home, you're not changing your atmosphere. Some folks are staying in more and not going out as much. This has an effect on your mental and on your mentality. So we need to watch as team managers, as leaders. We need to watch our teams. Check in with them, ask them questions. How is it going? And if you see something that doesn't look like it's quite right, talk to them, probe a little bit more. Let them tell you as much as they want to tell you. Most companies have programs that you can offer your team members if something is going on and they don't necessarily want to talk to you about it. They need to talk to someone and seek help. Don't just brush off changes in their either behavior or habits or attitudes as nothing is going on. Something may be going on, and while you may not be able to solve it as their leader or team manager, you need to notice it and pay attention to it, because they are our most valuable resource, and so we need to pay attention to them. So this is another area that we want to look at in the work from home situation. Now, when the pandemic hit, a lot of folks stayed at home. They didn't go various places. I stopped going to the gym, which is something that I really, really love doing. And when I stopped going to the gym, it did affect me emotionally, because that was a release for me that I didn't really know that I really needed. And I had limited equipment here at my house. And so I was missing going to the gym, not necessarily to talk to folks or see folks, but just getting in a different atmosphere. And so when the pandemic hit, a lot of people were kind of shut down, wanted to stay at home, wanted to be safe. And this affected them emotionally. It affected us all emotionally, because we didn't know when this was going to be over, when the next wave was going to come. It was just different things that were affecting us. And this is something that we as leaders need to pay attention to when it comes to our team members, because if somebody is usually happy and jovial, and all of a sudden when you have meetings with them, there's a change in attitude, or they're not quite as happy as they used to be, or, you just notice a little something different. Make sure you just check in with them, and they will so greatly appreciate this, because you're doing something for them and you're noticing something, and maybe they can talk to you about it, or maybe they can talk to someone about it. But as well as I do, that being in a place of isolation where you can't go out when you want to go out, or if someone, becomes ill with one of the diseases and you can't maybe go visit them or help them as much, it affects you, and it affects you mentally, and it affects you emotionally. So let's pay attention to that when it comes to our team members and our most important resource. Now, before I get to the last part of what can really affect our folks is if this information is helpful to you, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing to the channel so that it can be shared with other leaders and it can be helpful to them also. Now, the last thing I'll bring up is the physical aspect of working from home. Since the pandemic, things have changed for us, and some of us don't get out as much and maybe not exercise as much. Some of us may be created some habits of eating some snacks that we wouldn't normally eat coming into work. And since nobody is seeing you that much at work, you may have put on a few pounds. And this is nothing that's, not everybody, but a lot of people did put on some weight during the pandemic. And so some folks may be concerned about it. And if it is something that's affecting your health in a negative way, and you see that, or your employee expresses that to you, you may want to have them seek medical attention for that. If the blood pressure is up or whatever they are describing to you, have them seek the help that they need for that. But this is something with working from home that may be occurring with some of your folks. So we have, mental things to look out for, physical things to look out for, and emotional things to look out for that's real because of working from home and the pandemic that's been plaguing us for the last couple of years. So the overarching question is, does working from home still work for you? Does working from home still work for your team members? Just ask them that question and, be quite honest with it, because if it's not working for them, it may be time to make some difficult decisions, but, they owe it to themselves as well as the company to do what they need to do to have a happy place to work. And some folks, they want to work in a building. And if your company does not offer that, this may not be the best place for them to be at the time. When they first started with the company, we were all working from a building, or most of us were, and now things have changed. And if they have not adjusted to the working from home, maybe it's time now to make a decision one way or another. So there you have it. To make sure that the working from home in 2022 is still working for you, ask these few questions, take a look at a few things, and just be real with yourself, be real with your team members, and let them be honest with themselves too. All right, that's it for this time. I'll see you next time.